One. Hi, it's Chris Matlashewski with the Built-in Calgary team, and today I'm joined with Shannon Pennington, and he's going to share a little bit about his story, his background, what he's been able to accomplish, and how the Veterans Food Bank is sort of tying into what his mandate is in the promotion of mental awareness towards PTSD. Shannon, awesome to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I really have been looking forward to this conversation. Shannon, can you share with me a little bit about start off with a little bit of your background there, and sort of
Sure.
what led you into coming into this field here?
Well, I'm the executive director with North American Firefighter Veteran Network, formed in 2002, just after the 9/11 New York event. And it was formed at the request of the National Vietnam Veterans Traveling Tribute, Memorial Tribute, and it was displayed in Bellingham, Washington. And from there, I was challenged to form a veterans organization post 9/11 because, as one of the veterans from Vietnam had said, we waited too long to form a Vietnam veterans organization. And I see that there's going to be a real mess of suicides from the first responders in New York who are in at ground zero, trying to do the recovery work. And he said, you guys need to organize because it sounds like you don't have a national organization that could address these issues. So can you do it? And I said, yes, I can. I'm a former Canadian Forces military man. And also I had served at that time 24 years with the Calgary Fire Department. So I was ex-military, Army, warrant officer, and also a firefighter. The term firefighter veteran comes to mind. And that we sat down after that meeting, and I got together with 9 other firefighters in Calgary, and we decided to form North American Firefighter Veteran Network. And so we took a vote, and I was tagged with, congratulations, you're going to be the person in charge. And you can speak for the rest of us, and none of us want to be made targets with our mental health injury. So would you please speak to the issue? And I said, by all means, I can do that. So there's where it came from. I ended up as executive director and badged senior chief with North American Firefighter Veteran Network from 2002 till current, today's date, October of 24.
Yeah, and the time, I'm sure, has gone by quickly. What happened? Was it in 2016? You were recognized by Veterans Affairs. Was that the right year?
Yeah, roughly 2016. Yes, thereabouts. Loosey goosey again. PTSD brain, not taking notes. But here's what happened. In 2016, I got an email from the Honorable Ralph Goodale, who is at that time he was the minister in charge of Emergency Preparedness Canada, and it said, "Dear firefighter veteran, we here at Emergency Preparedness Canada would like to recognize your efforts to assist first responders in Canada with their recovery from a mental health issue in regards to PTSD. And thank you very much. We're giving you the designation now from our organization to yours as NGO, non-government organization." And so we are given some sort of a pontification and blessing from Veterans Affairs Canada, and therein lies where we're at now.
And sort of fast forward again a few years later, how did you go about to come across the Veterans Food Bank of Calgary?
That's a mystery to me, partially, but I was introduced to it by a veteran that had some knowledge of it, and he said, you should go and check these guys out. So I did. And when I walked into their office up in Northeast Calgary, there they were, doing what they do. Just everyday people, civilians, no military background, no experience, nothing, but they were prepared to help veterans who were on the street, who had been dropped from the system and who had mental health injuries, specifically PTSD, and who needed help. And they were already formed as a civilian organization They were tired of listening to the narrative coming from the press, television and print, about veteran suicides and so on. So Alan Reed got together with some other people, and they came up with the Veterans Society, and they formed. And instead of talking about it, they started walking it, and they hit the ground running. And within 3 years, they had food coming in, resources coming in, money coming in, donations coming in. And I said, wow. And I felt humble when I was in their offices. And then this is about maybe 2 months after I first knew about them, I became a member, not a member of the executive board, but I said, you know what? I went without a paycheck for 12 years, no income, living hard. And when I finally got a disability pension from workers' comp, it took 13 years. And I had some money coming in from a very small pension from the firefighters' pension, but it wasn't enough to keep me going throughout my monthly needs. So I joined the Veterans Food Bank, and I found a level of dignity in the way they treated me. And everything that I needed was there: food, toothbrush, toilet paper, soap, dog food for my service dog, meat, potatoes. So it made a difference to the small amount of pension, disability pension, that I waited 13 years to get. And it now is a significant contribution to my wellness at the end of the month, or even halfway through. If I need food, they give me food. And when I go and pick my food, I'm not issued a box full of, here, don't come back for a month.
Mhm.
They give you dignity in your selection and your need, and you only take what you need. And that's what I find very unusual. And it's a bunch of, I used to refer to Alan Reed as a dumbass civilian. You do pretty good for a dumbass civilian, you know. That was my denigration, my fight back at it. But the reality is, he's far from. And I asked him one day, I said, why are you doing this? And he said, because I care. Imagine that. A dumbass civilian that cares. Well, he wasn't just talking it, he was walking it.
Mhm.
So the love is there, and the care is there. The need was there. He saw the need. He said, I have an interest in the military. I care about our people that went overseas and have given us so much with their devotion, including our first responders. So I was one of the first responders to ever sign up for the food bank. And that makes a difference at the end of the month when it comes time to pay the bills, pay the rent, whatever it is you call it. So from about 6 months ago, when I joined, 7 months ago, to today, I take advantage of the food bank. I don't have to go to the ordinary food bank, because down there, you're given a box and you're told you can't come back more than 3 times in a given year. I can come back whenever I have a need for food. And so what I call that, or what they call that, is food security for our first responders and our veterans. And that food security is vital to making a difference. And I'm a diabetic type 2 from the stress. And they have diabetic supplies there, food, non-sugar, Splenda. You know how much Splenda is for a box of 100 packets? If you got a sugar habit, it's expensive. If you have a protein need, you got Bush's beans, or you can go right to the freezers and get meat. There's meat there, frozen, flash frozen. Costco, all the big organizations, the food donations that come in from the big organizations, Safeway, all the rest of them, they all donate to the Veterans Food Bank, over and above what they contribute to the average food bank in Calgary and surrounding areas. So it's veterans specific, first responder specific, and the level of dignity that goes with the ability to go in. And oh, by the way, when you walk in, the gal they got working the place, she's got a mental health background, so she can read you, she can network with you, and they can plug into psychologists that are there to help just the veteran. So you're not just another schmuck on the street shuffling down to the corner and back, or going over to the food bank. When you walk in there, you're giving your dignity back.
That's huge. It's huge.
Oh, you have some idea, my friend. You may have some idea. You have no idea what it means. And you know, when I started bringing guys in one at a time, first thing that I noticed is, well, I brought a retired detective sergeant from the Calgary Police Service, first responder, detective sergeant, struggling, struggling with workers' comp, struggling with the Calgary Police Association, struggling. And I brought him in. I snookered him. I got him to walk in. He said, "Come on, we're up in this end of town. Let's go into the Veterans Food Bank." And we did. And I showed him how it worked. He got halfway down the first aisle of food and he broke down. This is a hardened man who's seen it all. 22-year veteran of the Calgary Police Service on WCB. And he said, "My daughter likes that food. She likes that peanut butter. She likes that honey. She likes that jam." Anyways, and those family. And what came out of it was, I said, "So we're going to get you signed up." And we went into the front office and we shut the door with the lady there. Carrie is her name. And we had a conversation. And with that conversation, he signed up. And that's how you do it. You recover our wounded warriors by the power of one veteran at a time, because you give them access and you show them where to go. So we're like wayfinders, pathfinders for other veterans that are in need.
I was taken back when I was first in there, and you talk about the ability to shop, how you would, and how, if you were to go into, your Safeway or your co-op, and just that, I think, helps to restore some of your dignity, as you were saying, being able to pick out, the food that you like. And I like how they've set that up, with aisles, and you talk about the coolers for the produce and your meats. And I'm really excited to see, the involvement of, Hog and Ranch with, sort of trying to achieve self-sustainability, um, with the meats and the butchering. What other services, if any, have you been able to utilize? Because a lot of people think that the Veterans Food Bank is solely just a food bank, but they offer so much more. What other
Oh, yeah.
services, either yourself?
Psychological support, if you need
Mhm,
it, a place to have an ear that understands your service to Canada as a veteran. And in my
mhm,
case, I'm a double hatter, not only from my warrant officer's position in the Canadian Forces, regular and reserves, but as a first responder for 26 years with the Calgary Fire Service. So
mhm.
I'm what they call a double hatter. I've given service to my country and service to my community. And to see this online and accessible, and if I need to sit down and talk to somebody, that help is there. That understanding ear is there. And in that sense, it's not displayed before the public, but it is displayed within a culture of understanding and compassionate, loving, heartfelt kindness. And we
Mhm.
hold gratitude for them, and they hold gratitude for our service to our country and to our community. And that's a special bond. And the Veterans Food Bank maintains it as a trusted position from the citizens of the community around Calgary, and they extend it into our veterans community.
Yeah, and I think that that's important. I would also almost use interchange the word trusted with, feel safe. It's a positive environment to go into, and, to be accepted as to who you are, right? Um,
No shame. There's no shame in going in there. There
mhm,
is the opportunity to lift your head from the shame that society has placed upon you for being a person in need. As Mr. Trudeau said, "I have no more money for the veterans of this country." But he did have $10 million for Omar Kadar.
mhm.
And while the rest of us are going without, but oh, by the way, have you heard recently that the chief of the defense staff is saying, "We can't accept any more deployments. We're short 10,000 people." There's a reason why you're short 10,000 soldiers. is because of the way you treat them when they come back from their deployments.
Hmm.
And don't get me started. Bottom line is that the Veterans Food Bank and the people associated with it, from the front end staff to the support staff, have said, we're not waiting for Veterans Affairs to step up. We're not waiting for the government to help the soldiers who stood up for our country from way back to the Boer War all the way through to Afghanistan. We're going to stand up for our veterans now without having the government dilly dally and smoke whatever stuff they're smoking while our veterans are committing suicide.
Hmm.
Not happening. They said never, we're not going to do it. And by the way, I just came back from Hagen Ranch, and outside their gates they have two flagpoles, and on either flagpole is the one is a veterans flag we'll never forget, and the other one is the Hagen Ranch flag. They're both at half mast. And I talked to Alan, and Alan says those flags are staying down to half mast because of the obscenity that goes along with the number of suicides in our first responders and our military, and they're not going back up. We're leaving them at permanent half mast as a tribute to the service that our members have given us, the first responders in the military, and the price that they paid for their service. It's the least we can do to make sure that people pay attention to the need.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you talk about when you reference veteran, you know, so many people think, and rightfully so, that it's our military personnel, but I think we forget to recognize that our first responders, our fire department, our police officers, and our paramedics, are also veterans, and that the as you say, we're not waiting,
We
to.
can't. We can't. The body count is going way up.
Mhm,
As an example, Calgary Fire, 27 suicides in 20 years.
mhm,
But who's counting? Well, we can't talk about it because it's a privacy issue. Oh no, let's not talk about it. Let's just let's just look at the guys running into the fires. Calgary Fire Department is going on a heavy recruiting cycle right now for the next 5 years. They're going to be that short of manpower. And the problem that they have is the cat's out of the bag. They don't treat mental health injury. They just let you fade away and die and suicide and just get lost. We don't want to deal with
mhm. Yeah, so I think that, definitely the Veterans Food Bank is doing some cool things. I think you're also doing some cool things. You're on your way to Halifax coming up here, are you not?
it. I am. Interesting storyline there. You caught me by surprise by that one. You're not supposed to know that. But I will be doing a presentation. I will be doing a presentation via a group called the Atlas Group, which is making a forum available in the context of the Canadian Institute of Military Mental Health, which is holding a conference in Halifax uh, on October the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And the Atlas Group is meeting 2 days before to hear from veterans like myself about our PTSD issues and the way the system is failing itself. And they tried to shut down the Atlas Group. It's being run by a former Canadian soldier with 10 years experience. And he is a PhD candidate working out of one of the universities in Toronto. And he's gathering as much information. And they tried to shut him down. They couldn't. And he's now being allowed space at the Canadian Institute of Military Mental Health um, annual get together. And he will be presenting our information to, to that group to see and help them to understand that they're failing at that level. And these people are academics from 5 universities across Canada, and the Canadian Forces medical health system that is supposed to be giving help to their people. And in essence, they're failing. And how do we know they're failing? The number of suicides in the Canadian Forces. And the multiple deployments, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 deployments in 25 or 30 years for some of the regular force personnel. Um, you can't keep flogging that dead horse before old Dobbin says, I can't pull that wagon anymore.
Mhm.
And that's why you have a shortage in the Canadian Forces. That's why you have a chief of the defense staff having sexual assault claims laid left, right, and center. We have a crisis on our hands. And what they call in the military, we need an operational pause or an operational stop or an operational stop loss until we can get a handle on this, because the academics aren't doing it. The medical system, the Canadian Forces medical system, is not doing it because they're following mainstream recovery. They're following mainstream psychology. It's not about mainstream psychology. It's about veterans helping veterans, B2B, B2B, brothers to brothers, S to S, sister to sister. And finally, I say this with passion and commitment, not about me without me. Don't you tell me what you're going to do for me and tell me I need to take this pill or that psychotropic or this psychotropic, medical mafia aside in Canada, but let me help you as my partner to define what my needs are until I can get back on my feet or until I can carry on. And we're not even touching the Alzheimer's that goes with combat trauma and first responder trauma on our city streets and combat trauma in the wars around the world where peacekeeping and war is taking place. So that when the individual comes back and he starts going through the trauma and the drama of being isolated from Alzheimer's, and all you can hear are the battle screams. All you can hear is the screams of the dead or the nearly dead.
Mm-hmm.
We have assisted suicide in Canada now. I've asked my psychiatrist if I can have it because I will not descend into that chaos. And he's agreed. And I has to follow a certain protocol. That's private between myself and my clinician. I'm still under psychiatric care. But I have a quality of life now I've never anticipated. I had 3 suicide attempts many years ago. He talked me through a lot of stuff. And he said to me, he made this commitment to me. He said, I will stay with you until you take your last breath, and you will never get a bill from me. That's commitment. So I'm alive today because of other people believing in what I was doing in my journey to recover our wounded warriors by the power of one veteran at a time. And that modeling comes from the Vietnam veterans who said, don't think of recovering your first responders, your military people by the thousands or the tens of thousands or the hundreds, but by the power of one veteran at a time. Recovery by one wounded warrior at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And we stuck to that. And when I go to Halifax and do my presentation, I have a man that I met in Ottawa during the truckers convoy when I was out there. And here's what I said when I was out there. I was asked to speak on the stage below Trudeau's office window because I had my Glengarry on at the time. And I was tactical black, and I was going up and down talking to some of the truckers. And they said, would you be willing to stay on go on the stage and talk? And I said, sure, right in front of Parliament. So I got up there, and there's 55,000 people there, 4 or 5 blocks out. You could have heard a pin drop because they respected my military status. And I was introduced as a military man, former serving. And here's what I said. I said, I was invited here today to speak with you folks, the truckers. I said, and here's what I have to say. A long time ago, a little brown-skinned man named Gandhi stood up to the British government in India, and with a smile on his face and love in his heart and peace in his heart, without firing a bullet, he destroyed the largest colonial army on the face of the earth, and he kicked them out of India, and he emancipated his people. I said, you people, as a military man, I'm here today, and by that time, about 150 of us had showed up. No networking, nothing. We just had showed up because we want to be in Ottawa to see what was going on. And I said, I carried a rucksack and a rifle for 18 years protecting the peace. I wanted to come here to see whether you people in this organization, your truckers convoy, whether or not you were capable of holding the peace that we paid the price for. Could have heard a pin drop. Who showed up with violence? The government of Canada. Who showed up with horses trampling into people in the crowd? The government of Canada. Who showed up with armored cars? With machine guns? The government of Canada. Who showed up with pepper spray, gun belts, and batons? The government of Canada, not the truckers.
Mm-hmm.
So we were there as veterans, about 135, 140 of us, to bear witness to whether or not those truckers, those people in the convoy, could keep the peace that we stood up for around the world and here in Canada. and they did it. They did it. So yeah, and when the Ottawa police put up the barricades around the National War Memorial, we took them down. And they tried to come back at us and say, put them back up. And we said, nope, not going to happen. That war memorial does not belong to the Ottawa police. It does not belong to the government of Canada. It belongs to the people of Canada. And we are here representing the military men who have stood up for the people of Canada around the world. And here in this country, keep your hands off it. And they back right away. So are we doing good work? You betcha. Are we networking? Yes, we are. Are we tired of the same old, same old? Oh, yeah. And are we hard? You betcha. Life made it that way. The PTSD injury, the moral injury made it that way. We're fighting back. And we're losing. We're losing people. But we're still standing on 2 feet, moving forward, fighting back, recovering our wounded warriors by the power of one veteran at a time. And the Calgary Veterans Food Bank is doing the same thing. And we couldn't do our work without them helping us. Because when I went across Canada, I was in my Dodge Ram Caravan, and I spent 2 weeks on the road, and the coldest it got inside that van was minus 37 degrees in Ottawa. And I was eating Veterans Food Bank food and heating it on a stove and staying warm in a military sleeping bag that was good to minus 40. But I wanted to be there, and I was there. And we were there. The veterans were there. And one of the things that I feel that I can say now openly and honestly is that it would have been a hell of a lot worse for those truckers if 135 veterans hadn't showed up, and we were prepared to stand between the truckers who had families, who were Canadians, and the bullies and the goons from the federal government leashed on them by Mr. Trudeau. We were prepared to tangle and take them on, because we weren't going to stand by there as former soldiers who stood up for freedom and rights in other countries, only to see it given away by our government. No. And that message went out loud and clear, very silently, but it was there. And they knew that there were people there from former armed forces members who could take a hit. So Timex it is. Take a licking and keep on ticking.
Yeah. Well said. I'm really inspired by your efforts, Shannon. Like my hat's off to you. It really is, and I appreciate you just sharing a little bit about the efforts of the Veterans Food Bank, and the work that Ellen Reed and everyone else is doing. And I'm sure that you and I are gonna meet soon. You're off to Ottawa next week, or pardon me, I'm off to Ottawa next week. So the Veterans Memorial there. I know where it is. I'll definitely have more incentive to pay a little bit more attention now. And I wish you a positive conference out in Ottawa, or pardon me, Halifax. And yeah, let's connect after. So our time is just about out on our Zoom call, but it's been well thwarted here, and thank you for that.
Roger that, and thank you for taking an interest in it. We do a lot of our work in the silence and the darkness of injury, but the light at the end of the tunnel is not the train coming at us. It's the light that the Veterans Food Bank.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Great stuff. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, take care. God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.